The preview stills for One Punch Man episode 9 are out, and to be honest, I'm pretty happy with them. We're going to run through each and every one of them now, and have a look at their anime counterparts. Now, although the stills for this episode are pretty good, stills for previous episodes have also been pretty good. So it doesn't actually confirm that the episode is going to be well animated, but regardless, it doesn't hurt to speculate. So the first image is this, and boy, it's a hell of a focal point image. This is definitely going to be on like 100 thumbnails. But with that being said, compared to its manga alternative, there's actually a lot here. Now, not to give too much spoilers away, but you'd have to be living under a rock if you didn't know the Child Emperor is going to summon some form of Megazord mecha at some point in the season. And this is the moment. While in the manga, the pose is more or less the same, it's simply from a more dynamic angle. The background, however, is simply just anime impact lines. But here, we see that they're making use of the environment that they created before. So this is going to be the moment where he transforms, and honestly, it looks great. I love the lighting. I love the contrast between the pillars and the light coming in from above and right and left, and the shadow that's forming behind Child Emperor. And for once, the compositing and lighting in the shot looks genuinely really good. I'm particularly excited for this scene. Next, we have Phoenix Man waving, showing two graphics of a bird getting electrocuted and a bird getting set on fire. I'm pretty sure this is where he explains what Gero Gero told him in a previous episode, that through trauma, monsters can evolve into higher beings. And I think he's taking this quite literally, saying that getting electrocuted, getting cut up by Child Emperor previously, and getting set on fire might just help him evolve. Now, something I will say is that in the manga, this feels far more, inclusive to the environment. Like, it really does feel that Phoenix Man is simply doing this wave in the same room as Child Emperor, rather than this weird background of a dark cloud that might harm it because it might feel like it disconnects from the scene that is taking place in. An issue that I've noticed a couple times during this anime's production. Now, moving on to the next one, Child Emperor crying here. Now, I've read the manga. I'm pretty sure I know where this is, and upon editing, I 100% will know where it is. So, minor spoilers here, so step away for the next 30 seconds. Essentially, this guy's crying because him and Phoenix Man actually have like pretty touching moments throughout their fight. And this might be when Child Emperor is like, wah, this guy's pretty cool actually, I kind of understand him, wah. Okay, so I was just like entirely and completely fucking wrong about that. This is just when he's sad because he has to use the mech. He doesn't want to use the mech yet because it's his trump card, and he wants to use that against an actually tough opponent rather than using it against some bum like Phoenix Man. That's why he's crying. Because he's a kid throwing a tantrum. I'm so stupid, I thought I could rip that off the dome. I look at the manga 2 seconds in, I'm wrong. But moving on, this is a pretty decent looking shot. Child Emperor with the captive behind him running through what looks like City Z. Now, I hope it's not City Z because that's a lot to cover in one episode. Like a lot to cover in one episode. So I think this is more likely within the Monster Association moments before the altercation with Phoenix Man. Now, there's far more emotional detail in the manga here. Facial expressions and honestly just the gestures are far more vivid and clearly convey the emotion that was intended. While in the anime, in comparison, things seem to be a lot less tense, a lot less suspenseful. Child Emperor seems to be overwhelmingly comfortable in whatever situation he is, and the emotion on our captive, when I put them side by side, they are stark comparison to one another. Now, Murata at times has a certain standard of drawing, alright? And then sometimes he's like, fuck it, I'm going to spend like 10 years on one drawing. And this is what he does with this Phoenix Man panel. Look at the insane level of detail. I know I say that so often when I talk about Murata's art. Look at this. And then we look at the anime's alternative. Now, to be fair, the anime's is a close-up. Because, well, this is a horizontal panel. How do you fit a horizontal panel into an anime without losing some of the detail? Because you are going to. And also, anime need to recreate designs of characters in order to make them more animated friendly, so that they don't spend 10 billion years drawing detail like Murata does in a manga, so when they animate it, they can actually animate it. So that's why we notice a lot less detail here, and I'm sure if they had more time, they would add even more detail to shots like this. But as we all know, this production has been very, very tight. Regardless, at least in terms of the design, it's the same, although missing many details. And then I noticed this panel here. This is weird. So, an issue with the manga, which you can watch this video here to actually get a detailed and researched analysis on the redraws in the manga. But there was many redraws in the manga. Now, what a redraw is when they release a chapter of the manga, but for whatever reason, whether one wanted to rewrite a scene or Murata wasn't happy with his artwork, they re-release that chapter. Now, sometimes that's totally fine. We just get a few extra pages, and that's actually pretty nice. But sometimes they completely rewrite a fight scene. And this Phoenix Man fight has 3 alternative endings. The one I personally like the most is the second one. And that's really interesting because the visual they use here in this image for this promo shot is from that timeline. In the main One Punch Man manga, this visual, or at least this design of Child Emperor, isn't in it. So not only am I interested to see if they adapt it in terms of animation that I can appreciate, but also what version of this fight are we going to get? Personally, I'm really looking forward to this episode. It is one of the best in the anime. Full stop. And I've said that about the Flashy Flash fight, which is actually true, alright? Because the narrative consequences of that fight are still felt in the webcomic and manga today. However, I like the Child Emperor fight mainly because it is just so cinematic. There is so much that happens, so many interesting dynamic ways. There is so much destruction in the environment. And actually having one of these villains, these monsters, actually having more than, I don't know, 0.5 millimeter of depth to their character is phenomenally refreshing. If it's well animated, genuinely, I think people will love this fight. However, much like the rest of the episodes, we basically are going in completely blind. Sure, we know that there's some talented people behind the scenes working on the mecha designs and the mecha animation, but is that enough to save an entire episode? Last episode's Flashy Flash fight was a breath of fresh air because it was so new, but it wasn't groundbreaking animation. It was just decent, you know? And because us One Punch Man fans are huffing hopium at all times, we were satisfied with that. But now I feel that because we've got a little bit of good animation on our palette, we're going to expect it from now on. So if they don't deliver it, I assume that there's going to be horrible backlash. That more or less covers all of these teasers. I don't usually cover the teasers because, well, to be honest, I don't see any point. The videos that you make on them have a shelf life of like 2 days because that's when the next episode comes out. So I'm not going to make another one of these unless it gets some form of support. It's not personal, baby, it's just business. Anyway, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you want to talk about, you know, the production of One Punch Man or just air some of your grievances, feel free to join my Discord below. We talk all about One Punch Man. That's all we talk about. It's you try to get a word in about something else and it's immediately back to some Twitter drama or something. It's pretty exhausting at times. But I'd love to see you there.